Confused and overwhelmed by social media? Wondering what the next big trend is? Would you like to get more clients and more sales through the power of social media? Welcome to the Social Media Mastery Podcast, featuring your hosts, Daniel Dayette and Ricky Shetty, and a variety of social media experts covering the latest trends in social media.
All right, everybody, thank you for coming back to the show today. Last episode, we talked about past, present, and future of social media. Ricky dropped some knowledge bombs about basic social media rules, and it was a great show, so if you missed that, do go check it out. Episode sponsor for today is funneltracker.com. Create a custom dashboard for your marketing and track any tools and software, webinars, etc. funneltracker.com. Current episode today, so we're going to be talking about Facebook, how to build a huge following, set up groups, pages, and those kind of things for success. So, Ricky, what's the first step? I'm guessing there's a strategy. What's the first step to kind of planning your Facebook plan?
Yeah, so the first step is the strategy. So when I consult with clients or business owners, corporations, I always go through a 5-step process for all the platforms, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Google+, Snapchat, etc. But in terms of Facebook, which we're going to be talking about this episode, Daniel, I go through these 5 steps, and that's what we'll do over the next little bit. The first is creating a strategy. Secondly is building up a following. Thirdly is managing the following. Fourthly is engaging the following. And fifthly is converting the following into cash. And I think everyone is interested in how do you make money on Facebook or how do you make money on social media? But they ask the wrong question first. The first question is, how do I create a strategy for my business? How do I create a strategy for managing social media? How do I create a strategy to engage my fans? How do I create a strategy to convert my followers into clients? So that's what we'll talk about today, strategy. In terms of Facebook, I look at it like the 3 main reasons people use Facebook. The first is for personal, secondly is for social, and the third is for business. I mean, even for personal, we can use it for inspirational quotes or connecting to family, friends, even high school sweethearts, high school friends, etc. And for social, we organize like birthday parties on Facebook, social gatherings, even like Connect playoff or like NHL playoff things, right? We'll say we're having an NHL playoff or NFL playoffs. Shindig at my place. Well, here's the invitation. So we're using Facebook for multiple reasons: personal, social, and business. But in terms of business, which I think most people listening are on, and I'm sure even if they're business owners, they're still using it for personal, social. Because at the end of the day, I feel every business owner is also a person who uses it for personal reasons and social reasons and thirdly, business reasons. So in terms of business, definitely creating a strategy in terms of why. Why are you on social media? Why are you on Facebook? And then what's the ultimate purpose? So I don't know with you, Daniel, with your business. So we're back, and I was just asking Daniel what he uses social media for. What does he use Facebook for?
That's a good question, Ricky. So I use Facebook.
So Daniel, what do you use Facebook for?
That's a good question, Ricky. So I personally use Facebook for business mainly. Obviously, I do connect with friends and family members on it, but I've actually separated my Facebook, friends, I should say, into different categories. So I have the family group where I post scads of kids' pictures, and then mostly I try and keep everything as public as possible. And I have to admit, I'd like to think it was just because I'm trying to be transparent or authentic, as the catchphrase of the day is, but. Truth is, it's just easier.
And in terms of business, Daniel, what do you use it for, particularly? Like, what reason? In terms of like, business can be used. It can be used as lead generation. It can be used for marketing. It can be used for selling something. It could be used for like building up your expertise status, for branding. So, is there a specific reason within your business that you're using Facebook for?
Yeah. So. I like to think that a lot of the people following me are content creators, and so I like to kind of think that I'm leading that tribe in small ways. I don't post like crazy, but I like to think when I am posting stuff that it will be interesting to them. Obviously, my cover photo and my Facebook picture are all kind of showing myself as sort of a expert in my field. So, yeah, that's kind of the main angle I run with.
Yeah, so I think, like the listeners who are listening to the podcast, if you can write down or think about or reflect on, if you're in the car, obviously don't write it down, but if you're listening in your car, reflect on the main reason you're using Facebook. So is it for personal reasons, social, or business? If it's for business, like I asked Daniel, what part of your business are you trying to build? And I'll list out a few, and just think of, like, if you're at home, maybe write it down, or if you're in the car or jogging or whatever, just think of what reason you're using Facebook for. Is it to build up your brand? Is it to build up your expertise status? Is it to connect with potential leads through lead generation? Is it particularly just for Facebook advertising? Is it for content creation, like Daniel said? Is it just for education, like educating people on what you offer? Is it for charity function, like actually raising money or fundraising or crowdfunding? Is it for actually selling eBay e-commerce stuff directly through Facebook? Or is it just to drive people back to your site, kind of like SEO purposes or link backs? Or is it just to actually convert people, like maybe you have coaching clients or coaching leads, and through Facebook they build up a relationship with you, they see what they like, what they see, and finally they hire you as their coach. But you found them on Facebook and you converted them on Facebook. So that's the first question I would say. What is the strategy for your Facebook? And then we can go into other things like building up your following, etc. Anything else you want to know, Daniel?
Yeah, so let's talk about building up your following. I mean, in terms of actually getting more people, following you in. So, and actually with your actual strategy itself, isn't there like kind of 3 different main areas of Facebook that you create a strategy for? Like personal profile, pages, and groups?
Yeah, exactly. So if you look at Facebook, obviously you have your regular personal profile. Then you have fan pages or business pages, and then you have groups to manage communities. So I use all of them, and I personally have one Facebook profile, but I have like at least 5 or to 10 different pages, and I actually have 5 to 10 different groups. And I'll walk you through how I do it. And I've been pretty successful at managing all 3 of them. And actually, that will be the next thing we talk about managing. But the reason I create, firstly, the page, and then secondly, the pages, and then thirdly, the group, is for different functions. So when I look at just my name, Ricky Shetty, that's me. That includes me as a person, me in terms of the personal reasons, the social reasons, and the business reasons. Then I have separate fan pages for all my businesses. So I have a Daddy Blogger fan page. I have a Why We Are Bloggers fan page, Why We Are Foodies, Why We Are Travelers, Why We Are Entrepreneurs, all these fan pages. But I also run conferences. So I have fan pages for all my conferences. I have a Social Media Mastery Conference fan page. I have a Blog Mastery fan page. I have an Internet Marketing Mastery fan page. But I also have the Why We Are Conferences fan page. So those are at least 10 fan pages. And then in terms of groups, I use groups to build community. So I look at it, and I'll explain the difference between a page and a group. I look at a page as a promotional or marketing tool for a business. So the reason a page or a business page exists is to market that business through obviously like written posts, audio posts, or video posts. So on your fan page, you can do those 3 things. You can post like written messages, status updates, inspirational quotes, pictures, etc. But you can also put links to like audio interviews, like what we're doing now, podcast interviews, etc. Plus, you can actually do videos on there. You can either put a YouTube video on your fan page, or a Facebook video that's directly embedded onto the fan page, or something cool. You can actually put a Facebook live stream directly through your fan page, which is awesome. Because the reason it's awesome is people can engage immediately while you're streaming. So you can actually, like, say I was streaming now, and I'll be like, hey guys, I'm here in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and I'm walking around the Stanley Park seawall. Have you guys been to the seawall? Have you guys been to Vancouver? Have you guys, what's your favorite part of Vancouver? And then as I'm live streaming, people would say, oh yeah, I have been to Vancouver. I'm actually from London, England, but I've flown there. Or I have been to Stanley Park. It's a beautiful park, one of my favorite parks in the world. Or actually, I prefer Queen Elizabeth Park, or a different park, right? So when I live stream, I create engagement directly with the people on the live stream. But I also purposely say, oh, by the way, if you're watching the replay of this, leave us a comment. What's your favorite part of Vancouver? Have you been here? So I'm engaging both the live people and the replay people. That's what I'm doing on my Facebook fan pages, but with all my different brands. So with my Daddy Blogger brand, with my conference brands, with my different events I run brands. And then the page is really for the business promotion. I find it's not as much for the community building. So why I create groups as well is groups are really about community. Even the word group signifies like the members, right? And if you look at the designations on Facebook, Facebook has followers. A Facebook fan page has followers, or fans. Sorry, fans or followers. Whereas a group actually has group members, which signifies or designates more like a community. So I use communities to build community. I use groups to build community. So I have some blogging groups, and I happen to live in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and the airport code here is YVR. So I use YVR for a lot of my brands. And if you're listening outside of Vancouver, you probably have an airport code and you probably have something equivalent. But I'll just use, obviously, my example. So YVR Bloggers would be a community of Vancouver bloggers. So I have about 2,000 people in my Facebook group, a majority of which are bloggers already. So there's probably 1,000 plus actual bloggers, which are in different segments, so different industries. So there's like the food bloggers, the tech bloggers, the lifestyle bloggers, the parent bloggers, the event bloggers, the beauty bloggers, and so on and so forth. Then you have people who want to be bloggers in the future. So they're also part of the group, and they still listen, and they maybe ask questions. How do you set up a blog? Or is it best to do a WordPress, or Blogger, or a Blogspot, or Tumblr, or one of the other sites? Or how do you market your blog? Or how do you monetize your blog? So I have that group specifically for the function of teaching people about blogging. And from there, I take people from the YVR Bloggers group into my YVR Bloggers evening events, which are meetups, which I charge $10 or $20 for. But I also take them into a one-day workshop, which is $100, and it's a one-day training where I teach people about blogging. But I also take them into my conference, which is at least $100 plus for my 1 to 2 day conferences. So what you can see there, what I've done, I create the community, I engage the community, then I convert the community from a free community on Facebook. By the way, groups can be free also, like as part of like a package, a coaching package, and then you can actually say it's a paid, secret, private Facebook group. But I'm talking more about public groups here. So public groups would obviously be free because you can't literally pay money on Facebook to be in the group, but you can pay on their website to be part of a secret group. But public groups, I look at it as a free group. And then from the public group, I take them into a meetup, which would be a low ticket price point. And then when they pay the $10 or $20, that's called your tripwire. And in internet marketing, there's a term called the tripwire. And that's like selling them something like a $2 to $3 ebook, or like maybe a $10 or $20 like a course or a print book or something. You're basically tripping the wire from a free to a paid customer, from a free lead or free follower to a paid follower or paid lead, paid client. So once you trip them into a $10 or $20 product, then you can take them to a $50 to $100 product. And then you can take them to a $500 to $1,000 to a multi-$1,000 product. But first, you get to get them into the free group where they know, like, and trust you. And we all know that if you do business with people you know, like, and trust. And if they trust you and they like you and they know you, then they're going to buy from you. And it could be a $10, $20 product, but it could be a $100 or $500 product. Or it could be a multi-$1,000 product, like a $5,000 or $10,000 product. But again, it's all through Facebook, through your personal profile, to your pages, and through your groups. So that, in a nutshell, is what I do. I separate it into pages and groups, and then I basically create engagement and a community, and then I try to convert that community through my events and postings, etc. Daniel.
That makes sense. So that kind of gives people a bit of an overview on how to sort of build up that following and what those different platforms are used for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you have any tips on sort of managing things once you kind of get that platform going and you've got your profile page and your groups all set up?
Yeah, so once you build up your strategy and then you build up your following through, I mean, obviously your Facebook personal profile. And what I would really suggest doing is leaving it public. And then, also turning on the follow button. So that means people can actually follow you, and you don't necessarily have to friend them back. And that could be something like you've reached your limit, which is 5,000 friends. Once you reach your 5,000 friend limit, there's actually no way around it. You can't pay for extra friends, or you can't ask Facebook, please increase my limit to 10,000 friends. You can't do that. Facebook doesn't allow it at this point. I mean, who knows what the future holds. But right now, there is a 5,000 friend limit. Once you hit that limit, then you can, you don't really need to reach the limit to turn on following. You can pretty much turn on the following at any time. And then basically people can click on the follow button and still get updates. And the cool thing about Facebook is you can create something called lists. And for those of you who use Google+, you'll be familiar with the circles. And you create like a friend circle or a business circle, or if you're into like church or something, you could have a church circle or like a charity circle. With Facebook, you can do something similar to circles, but they call lists. So what you do there is like you can create your family list, which is like maybe your wife and kids, or your husband and kids. That's your immediate family list. But then you can also create your extended family list, which is cousins, aunts, uncles, like grandparents, etc. And then you can create like your social list, which might be like a social club you're part of, like Toastmasters, or like a tennis club, or like maybe a charity you're part of, right? So you create your social list, and then finally you can have your business list. These could be your like companies that you work with, or it could be clients you work with, or it could be leads. So I use lists, kind of like circles on Google, or kind of like lists on Twitter. If you look at Twitter, they also have something similar. So if you look at the platforms like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Google+, they usually have something similar in terms of either they have lists or circles, or some way of categorizing people based on type of person. So in terms of building up your following, definitely I would say turn on the follow button. In terms of should you add friends or not, what I do is if I see that people have mutual friends, and at least 5 to 10 mutual friends, then I'll usually add them. If I only have one mutual friend or 2 mutual friends, I look at their profile, I make sure they're legit, and I actually want to be friends with them, and then I'll accept them. But if they are usually 5 to 10 mutual friends, then I'll accept them. And I leave following on. And when I'm posting, if I'm just posting like private stuff, maybe like my kids' pictures or something, then I might just keep that exclusive just for family. And if I'm posting something that's more like a social, like maybe it's a birthday party, I'm turning 40 or something, right? Then I might say, I'm having my 40th birthday. It's open to all my friends and, contacts. But then my business people could care less about my birthday party unless they're really close business associates. But when I'm posting my business info, then maybe it's an event or a conference that I'm holding, then I'll target them. So you can target different clients or different categories of people based on lists. In terms of fan pages, obviously you can pay Facebook to advertise your page and get clients that way. Or you can just add a lot of good content and automatically people start finding it because Facebook will suggest them. And with groups, I would definitely say adding people that you already know to your groups, and then just every now and then posting it. By the way, I have a group. If you're interested in blogging, check out Why We Are Bloggers on your personal profile, plus also your fan page, and you also your multiple fan pages. And then eventually you grow your groups as well. Plus, Facebook will recommend groups as well. They'll say, since you're interested in things like social media and blogging, internet marketing, this is a really good group for you. And you can tag your groups, by the way, too. Based on geography, like Vancouver, BC, Canada, or based on like industry, or based on type of thing the group's about. So that, in a nutshell, is how I build up my following. And then I think you were asking me about how do I manage, right?
Yeah, that's one of the other things. Yeah.
Yeah. So I teach a 5-step process, which is strategy, following, management, engagement, and conversion. So we've already gone through the first 2 steps, which is like building up a strategy. What's your purpose for using Facebook? Then how do you build up your following? Things like I mentioned, turning on the follow button, creating good content, even paying for advertising, etc., and managing groups, etc. So now that you've, again, I usually do this in a lot longer, like a 1-hour presentation or like a multi-day conference, but I'm kind of like summarizing it for the sake of efficiency and effectiveness for the podcast listeners. So once you build up your strategy and your following, then you go into your management. How do you do that? That's a big question, Daniel. And I think a lot of business owners have this question. How do I manage Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Google Plus and Pinterest and Blab and Periscope and Meerkat and Vimeo and YouTube and Vine and Meetup and Hootsuite and all that, right? So one way you can manage it is through something like Hootsuite, because in Hootsuite, you can actually have multiple platforms and you can see, for example, all your Twitter streams on there. You can post, you can auto post. You can actually set it up that you post on certain days of the week or certain times or like once a week, etc. You can also set that up on your Facebook fan page, by the way. You can set up posts on there, or you can do a combination of both. I personally am a fan of something called RealTime Engagement. So I don't like automatic posts. And everyone's different. You got to look at your comfort level and your strategy. For me, I like real-time engagement, so I'm posting on the go through my mobile phone, and I do a lot of lifestyle marketing. So I'm marketing like basically a lifestyle of a work-from-home dad or like an entrepreneurial lifestyle entrepreneur. So that's how I market lifestyle entrepreneurship through lifestyle marketing, which is obviously an appropriate fit. If I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, which means basically you're living a lifestyle where you're not tied to a 9-to-5 job, that you're living a life of three things: time freedom, money freedom, and location freedom. By being a digital nomad, by working from home, by working when you want, where you want. I mean, I could work. I have the freedom to work at a coffee shop or at home or a co-working space, or not work at all, or or work on a weekend or work in the evening. So that's in the journey for entrepreneur, is you do have the freedom, but also sometimes you're working weekends, honestly, or sometimes you're working like after 5 p.m. So you have the benefits of entrepreneurship, but also kind of like the challenges of entrepreneurship, because you don't typically work a 9-to-5 shift, as most entrepreneurs listening will know. And I'm sure, Daniel, you can relate. I can definitely relate, because sometimes I'm working until midnight, or sometimes I'm working at like super early in the morning, or sometimes I'm working on Saturday. But I'm very strict about, in terms of social media management, in terms of when I post and all that. My Sundays, I call that my Sabbath or my holy day or my family day. So my Sundays, I'm not very active on social media. I'm not active in my business. I turn off, I tune out, I detach from technology, and I hang out with my wife and kids and really invest time in the things that are important to me, which is God, wife, kids, and myself. And the business is secondary to that. So I don't spend time in my business on a Sunday. I might spend a lot of time in the evening, but in the day, like for example, just the last Sunday, I hardly jumped on Facebook, with the exception of, I think it was my wife's baby shower. So I think I live streamed that. But other than that, I wasn't on it that much. But by my other days, my 6 working days, I'm on social media pretty frequently, and I manage it primarily through my mobile. So what I do is I'm going to pull up my mobile here, and I'm going to look at all the apps. So I have an iPhone, and I'm sure it's equivalent with a Samsung, what do you call it, Android phone, or Windows phone. But on your iPhone or in your smartphone, you have all of your folders, but you have your apps. And what I do is I have my daily apps that I use every day as the first thing I see after my kids. My first thing I see is actually the icon of my kids. And my family is a family picture or my kid's picture, because that's actually the most important thing to me in my life. It's my priority. That's the first thing I see when I open up my phone. But the second thing I see after I open up my phone and put in my passcode or password or what do you call it, retinal scan. Actually, just joking. There's no retinal scans yet, but there's a finger scan. When I do that, then the first thing I see is all the apps. So I see the apps that are really important to me, obviously, are contacts, messaging, which is texting, and phoning people. And then I have my email apps, which are my Gmail, and then my MailChimp, which is I use to manage my email newsletters and emails to people. And then I have all my social media ones. So I have my Facebook, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, my YouTube, and then I have all my blogging ones. So I have my Daddy Blogger, and I have my Family Travel Bloggers, and my WordPress app. And then I have like other things that I use on a daily basis, such as my banking and some other stuff. But I'm not talking about productivity or kind of general life management. I'm just talking about social media management. But I'm sure all of you guys listening can still identify with the apps for just lifestyle management or kind of like productivity management, right? So I manage primarily on my phone on the go. So I turn my notifications on, but not excessively. Like you can turn what type of notifications on. So you don't want to get notified when all of your friends post status updates, because then you're going to be going off like every second, obviously. But I do turn my like Facebook Messenger. Like if someone messages me, I want to be able to respond in real time. So with Facebook, I actually have 4 different apps. I have my general Facebook app, which is for managing my personal profile. Then I have my Pages app. I have my Groups app. Then I have my Messenger app. And then basically, I use all 4 of those apps for different purposes. So the general Facebook app is like posting pictures, checking in into places, maybe scrolling my wall, seeing the latest news feed, just checking out what my friends are doing, those kind of things, right? Breaking news, etc. I check that on my Facebook news feed or my Facebook app. My Pages app is where I manage all my pages. So I have like my Daddy Blogger, all my YVR pages. Then I have all my conference pages, so I can update those on the go, respond to people on the go. And then I have my groups. So if people ask me questions, I get notified, especially if they tag me. I'll get notified and I'll respond in real time if possible. Or if not, within an hour. If not, within a few hours. So I'm very conscious and then very proactive about responding in real time or as close to real time as possible. In real time obviously means as soon as I get a message on my Messenger app, boom. And actually people get surprised. They're like, how come you all on the time? Like I message you and boom, you get a response right away. And it's because I'm proactive about real-time engagement. And also it's actually part of productivity for me. Because if I get a message and if I don't respond in real time, if I say, I'll get to that later, then I actually might wait or I might forget about it or not respond at all. And that actually affects my productivity because I get influenced mentally saying, no, Daniel messaged me. I really need to respond to him. I better do that by 5 p.m. I better do that before I sleep. So I've already taken up mental space for that kind of like worry or that stress. But if I do it in real time, I've actually, if I'm playing, like I use a tennis analogy. If I'm playing tennis with Daniel, who is my co-host here, and I just he messaged me saying, hey, we really need to record the episode, the next episode. So I'll be like, boom, right away. I'll be like, let's do it this Friday at 3. And then I've actually played tennis with him. He said, he's first served to me saying, Ricky, we need to record the next episode. I'm like, okay, Daniel, here you go. Let's do it Friday at 3. He responds back saying, no, I can't do it. Let's do it on Monday at 1. So we're doing real-time engagement back and forth. And eventually we set a time for the podcast interview, for example. Or if it's like someone else asking me questions like, hey, Ricky, I'm struggling with my blog. How do I get more people to comment on my blog? If I get that question, I'll be like responding right away saying, the way you do that is to turn on Facebook comments or install the Facebook comments plugin to your blog so people can comment without entering the name, the email, and all this, SLR code or whatever they ask you for at the bottom, right? So instead of doing that, turn on your Facebook comments app on your website or your blog, and then boom, you'll get a comment right away. So I will actually respond to the person who asked me that in real time or as close to real time as possible. And by the way, if you look at your fan pages, there's something called a response rate. And then you'll see on your fans page, it will say, 100% response rate and the amount of hours that it took to respond or the amount of minutes. So actually, Facebook is encouraging you to respond faster to turn on the badge. And the goal is to actually have a 100% response rate and real-time engagement. So even Facebook is advocating for what I'm advocating for through their fan pages, which is real-time engagement. So again, going back to how do I manage it? I use apps. I use my Facebook app. I use my Messenger app. I use my Pages app. I use my Groups app. I turn important notifications on. Like if they tag me, then I want to be notified. If they just post a status update, I could care less, or I could care when I go to my newsfeed. But if they tag me, if they message me, I want to be on top of it. I want to serve the tennis ball back to the person who's messaged me. So I hope that answers the question, Daniel, about the management. So we've already covered strategy, we've covered how to build up your following, and now we've just covered management.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you brought up an interesting thing there with the whole, real-time responding, because I know for me, I'm often kind of the, if something requires a longer response, I might wait till I have a real keyboard, or until I get back to the office or something. But so that's a really powerful way of sort of saving time, at least to give a short response of, playing the tennis, so to speak. So what about engaging the following itself? I know you have sort of a golden rule. Maybe you also have some kind of content ideas.
Which one? Oh, engagement. Yes. I'm sure all of you have heard of something called the golden rule, which is do unto others as you want to have done to you. I use Christian analogies a lot. That's my faith background. But I'm sure like even the people who don't have the faith background have heard of the golden rule. It's basically do unto others as you want to have done unto you, or basically, if you want someone to do something, do the same to them first. So the analogy here is, for example, if I want more likes, comments, or shares, what should I do, Daniel?
Comment on other people's stuff?
Yeah. If I want someone to comment on me, if I want someone to like me, comment, and share me, what do? I do unto others as I want to have done unto me, but I do it first to them. So my kind of additional golden rule is to do unto others what you have done unto you first, right? So I don't wait for them to do it to me. I start with that. So, and even the phrase do unto others is kind of like starts with do unto others first, right? It's not let people do unto you, then do unto others, right? If you look at the analogy, the golden rule, it's very much do unto others first. So again, going back to social media, I want to do to others what I want them to do to me in return. And again, you got to be detached from expectations of return. So it doesn't matter to me as much whether they respond back to me. I want to just serve them or do good to them first. And then I believe that eventually will come to me back. It's kind of like the law of reciprocity, or the law of sowing and reaping, or if you call it the law of attraction, those kind of things. If you do first good to others, good will come back to you. Karma, if you want to call it that. I always do unto others first because I look at it like I want to be the proactive person. I don't want to be the responsive person, because there's two ways to live life. One is to be proactive, and then the other is to be reactive. So I choose to be proactive, and you can choose to be reactive. It's your choice. But I feel the proactive ones are the ones that are successful. In everything, whether it's like politics or business or society or social justice issues or social media issues, it's definitely the proactive ones. So how do you be proactive? Firstly, on your newsfeed, which most of us use, when you're scrolling your newsfeed, like, comment, and share other people's content. So I definitely like and comment people's stuff. I don't always share. I like first. Liking is very easy. It's just the thumbs up sign, right? And I think we all know that Facebook has recently changed from not just the thumbs up, but you have the emoticons, which is awesome. You have all these different emoticons, everything from liking something to laughing at something to loving something to being sad at something, and being surprised by something. So the emoticons have been around for a while, just generally in the internet space. But now Facebook has adopted emoticons for emotions, for what people are posting on the status update. And I think this was a response for the call on social media, or the call on Facebook. We want a hate button or like or dislike, right? A dislike button. Like they do on YouTube. On YouTube, you can like a video or dislike a video. But I think Facebook chose not to put the dislike for whatever reasons. They have their own strategy, right? So I think keep it positive is the saying, right? So why dislike something? Why not respond to it differently? Like, for example, if someone dies on not dies on social media, but if someone dies and you find out on social media, that's a bad joke, but you get what I'm saying, guys. Hopefully I made you laugh there. But if someone dies, which happens obviously every day, and they said, unfortunately, my uncle has passed away, and you find out about it on social media, then you can, instead of saying like it, why would you like the fact that someone has died? You can actually be sad about it. And empathize, and cry with those who cry, weep with those who weep, right? So on Facebook, I love this new emoticons feature. I want to be sad when someone else is sad, because I want to empathize with them. If someone is going through grief, I want to grieve with them. I don't want to be happy about it, because it actually affects me. And I think this is the power of social media. Traditionally, what's happening on social media is people have just posted the good stuff. And they've avoided, I mean, you might not even know that, for example, Daniel's dad passed away this morning, or Daniel's uncle passed away, or his grandfather. You might not know that. And you have no idea that Daniel's sad today. But on social media, you can know. Instead of Daniel calling all of his friends, oh, my uncle passed away, or my grandfather passed away, he can post on social media, my grandfather lived an extraordinary life of 92 years. Unfortunately, this morning, he went back to be with the Lord, or, he passed away. So he writes that, and people can ignore it, they can empathize with it, or they can like it. But I think the best way to engage someone on social media is to feel what they're feeling. So if someone's feeling sad on social media, guess what you should feel? Sad. Because actually, it does affect me. If Daniel, who's my friend on social media, his uncle or grandfather passed away, that makes me sad. Because I am a friend of him, and I'm like kind of emotional about it, saying, oh man, like Daniel's going through grieving. Maybe I should give him a call. No, maybe I should private message him saying, hey, Daniel, if there's anything I can do during this time, let me know. And that's the beauty of social media. When we go from being people who just use it for business, when we go from people of a sales type person to an empathetic type person. Because if I empathize with Daniel, who could be a business partner, a joint venture partner, a client, a lead, if I empathize with him during that time, eventually he'll be like, Ricky, you were there for me during that time. Let's do business together. Or because at the end of the day, I think we're real people, and in business, it happens every day. We live in a life, not just of business, but in a life of life, where people get sick. They go through divorces. They go through custody battles. They go through challenges in health or finances. So if we can empathize in every realm, not just the business realm, we're going to be way more effective in business. So we are talking about business, but if you see the analogies I'm drawing, business is person to person first and business to business second. Because at the end of the day, I don't look at business as money. I look at a business as people. And people do business with what? People they know, like, and trust. And why wouldn't you know, like, and trust people who empathize with you? So that's how I do engagement, Daniel. I do it through through the golden rule, through the power of empathy, and through the power of being a person first and a business second.
That makes a lot of sense. So when you're doing that kind of engagement, so how do you kind of turn those relationships into profits and sales and conversions of your event tickets and stuff like that? Because I know you're really good at turning your social media following into ticket sales.
I am, and I'm humble about it. I mean, I am good at that, and I do get a lot of people at my conferences, and I have made a lot of money at them. But I've also had a lot of struggles with them too, and I think it's really important to be real, even on this podcast interview or just in general, to be real on social media, because you can brag about your business and just say, oh, my business is doing amazing, and I'm getting so many clients, and my conference is amazing. And that's the default, and that's the thing. We like to share what's good. We like to hide what's bad. I think that's the default kind of condition of humans. We don't like to share that we're going through a difficult time in a marriage, or we're fighting with our kids, or we haven't talked to our dads in a long time. We don't like to share these things on social, or even just in real life to friend, right? So obviously, if we don't like to share these things generally, even to our friends, obviously we're not going to share these things publicly on our businesses or on our blogs or on our social media platforms. But actually, and this is funny, I'm talking about conversions, I'm talking about these things in terms of conversions. But conversions is all about people do business with people they know, like, and trust. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. So podcast listeners, repeat after me. What do people do business with? People they know, like, and trust, right? This is almost a given. Every business owner will more or less agree with that statement. Think of yourself. Who do you do business with in terms of getting a realtor or a mortgage broker or a financial planner or even a shop owner or like a salesperson at a shop? You're not going to go to salesperson in a shop and do business with someone you don't really like, or in terms of you don't really trust them. Are they really trying to sell you just for commissions? They seem a little bit edgy just to sell you today because maybe the sales quotas are down or something, right? When I see someone like when I'm buying furniture at IKEA or something, and if someone's really trying to sell me, I don't know, like, and trust them. Therefore, I don't do business with them. But I do business with the IKEA person or whoever, and it's kind of funny I use an IKEA because usually you need to talk to people, right? But maybe Walmart or something, right? So with Walmart, usually I like to do business with someone who's not commission driven, that they just like they're in it there just to serve you, right? The best salespeople are there to serve you, not to sell you. So taking this back to your fan page, you have to be the type of person that is knowable, likable, and trustable. And how do you do that? By being real in everything, in the good things, the bad things, and the in-between things. So on my blog, and I'll just give you the analogy of my blog, on daddyblogger.com, I started with just sharing the good things. Then I started becoming more and more vulnerable in terms of like, and I'll actually be vulnerable here so you understand where I'm coming from. So my parents had a divorce. I didn't have a good childhood growing up. And then I had a lot of fears to do with marriage and becoming a dad. And I lived with those fears in my 20s and 30s. And in my 30s, finally, when I got married at like 34. And then I had kids. I decided to get counseling in terms of like, dealing with my past and all of that. But even like pre-marriage counseling, and even in our marriage now, we have a good marriage, but not an amazing marriage. It couldn't be the best possible. And I wish it was even better. So now I'm doing counseling for that. I'm like, how do I be a better husband? How does my marriage become the best it can be? How does my wife, well, she has to do it for herself and I have to do it for myself. I have to be the best husband. That's all I need to commit to. And how is that? By spending time with her, by communicating with her, by being the provider, the protector, by taking care of the kids, by listening to her, by giving her time away to do massages, or surprising her with a baby shower. Those kind of things are what make me a good husband. And I'm guilty of not being one because I'm too busy in my business, so I'm too busy running my events. And that's being real. I'm being real on the podcast, being real on my blog, being real on my email list, being real on social. And the reason why people will do business with me is because I'm being real. And they can identify, oh my God, I can relate to Ricky because actually I also struggle with my marriage, or I also struggle with being too busy in my business. And therefore they want to work with me because finally they found someone who's real, not BSing. Because it's easy to BS and put on a show and put on a mask and pretend you're the ideal person or the ideal business owner. But I know from experience that everyone struggles in a business. Everyone struggles with their bills. Everyone struggles to pay out their mortgage. Unless you're a multimillionaire or like financially independent, which I don't know if maybe some of your podcast listeners are philanthropists and are already retired or they're independently wealthy. But for the most part, people are still working and struggling to pay out bills and still have a mortgage to pay or rent to pay, etc. Right? So I think by being real about these things, like I struggled to pay my bills some months, Daniel, and I struggled to pay off my mortgage, and I missed my mortgage payments a couple times last year. And that's being me, being real. But I also had a conference that made me over 10,000 in 1 month, and I hit like $10,000 at a conference, so that was good. But I also lost $500 at a conference. I put in all this time, and I lost $500 at a conference. So I'm being real on my social media. I'm being real with you podcast listeners and being real on my blog to some degree. There are obviously some things I'm still not sharing, right? But I'm being real to a degree where you can relate to me and therefore you'll do business with me. So how do you guys apply this to your own lives in terms of being listeners? And you could be a realtor right now listening. You could be a shoe salesman listening. You could be a social media management listener. You could be a coach listener. But you need to be real first because people, your clients, who buy shoes from you, your clients who buy houses from you, your clients who are going to be hiring you for coaching sessions. They need to see that you're real on social media, on your blog, on your email list, on your podcast interviews, and then they'll do business with you. So my success to my business and my success to being me and having a big following and having, I have a lot of following on social media, 100,000. I have a YouTube channel with 1 million views. I have a blog with 10,000 views a month. I have conferences with 200 plus people. I have conferences that make me thousands of dollars, but it's being real with the good and the bad. So I hope I've answered the conversion question in terms of the character question. So how do you build conversions? Well, you build character. And you convert by being real and being likable, knowable, and trustable, Daniel.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, so we talked about, obviously, the strategy when you first hop on the channel, or on Facebook, I should say, that you want to kind of dig into your strategy. We talked about building up a following, managing that following, engaging it, and then, of course, turning those those followers into buyers. Ricky, this has been really interesting stuff. I know you've revealed a lot of intimate details, so there's an incredible amount of value in this show. Next show that we're planning to do, we're going to talk about Twitter, how to get that audience, the exposure and the engagement, how to make it not feel like you're shouting in outer space, and how to actually reach out to people. This has been awesome, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much, listeners. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, ricky@daddyblogger.com, or just through my website. Definitely leave us a rating on iTunes, and leave us a review on any of the platforms you use, whether it's iTunes or Stitcher or any of the platforms you're listening to on the podcast. Thanks, and we look forward to seeing you on the next show.
Thanks for listening to the Social Media Mastery Podcast. To get more information about strategies, events, sponsors, and more, visit www.smmastery.com.